I have decided to record today a short video about knowledge and spiritual knowledge in particular, because there is a difference, and you can find the difference very early in the practice. For example, when people read some textbooks on some science, for example, physics or math, let's say basics, the data that is presented in the book can be immediately used and understood and explored in the reality. You have two pencils, one pencil plus one pencil, two pencils. However, it doesn't really work in spirituality. If you read sacred texts, for example, Yoga Sutras or Shiva Sutras, and you learn about meditation states and higher states, or for example of Samadhi, it is not necessarily that you obtain the experience of Samadhi at the same moment of time. So for example, you read that you can achieve in the meditation pure consciousness level of joy and happiness. But knowing that this is the consciousness level doesn't mean that you have already realized experience. Because there is a difference between the levels of knowledge, and this is what I wanted to cover today. Knowledge, as we know, it operates mainly within the boundaries of mind. We have a memory from where we take data. We can operate with this data in our mind. We can think about it, we can reflect on it, and we can feel some emotions that are connected to this specific data. All of the above, these are the operations done by our logic, our mind processes, and our ego. Our mind brings data up to the surface, and our ego will take judgments. In a way, when we are thinking about measurement of IQ, intellectual coefficients, like how intellectual the person is, it is measurement of mind mostly. When you think about emotional intelligence, this is more correlated to ego. Mind and ego, they work together at all times. Then there is that level of reflection, when we consider something and we doubt it and start thinking about it. This is the short bridge into the higher levels of consciousness that are present in a way beyond our mind logic, or beyond how we used to think. The higher states, they are the states of clear knowledge, of pure consciousness, where mind functions, they dissolve, and where the perception only remains. This is why when reading the texts, sacred texts, for example, it is not necessarily that you realize immediately the knowledge that is coded in the text, because we tend to read with our mind and logic, with our functions that we use every day. Sometimes we reflect on the text, we can understand something deeper, but what really matters is the state in which you read the text, and if you can perceive the exact state that is being described. It is not related only to the texts, definitely it is present beyond the written material. So where the higher knowledge can be found, if the higher knowledge is, in first place, the state of consciousness. It is easy to be found in the places of worship, where people come together, they share some belief, and then this belief is creating some space. You can easily feel it when you enter a church or ashram or monastery, a place where people worship the god or gods or higher will. Another place where you can find the same state of consciousness is the practice, individual spiritual practice. For example, in prayers or in mantras during performance of pujas, any spiritual ritual has a coded higher state in it. And when I say any or every spiritual ritual, I would rather suggest something traditional, something that has been adopted and passed from the teacher to the disciple. There are a lot of new practices, and I would rather be very I'd rather be very conscious about the practice that you adopt. The higher states can be found coded in the sacred texts, has already been said, and for sure they can be transitioned or transmissioned from teacher to the disciple. This is the specific of spiritual education. When the teacher or guru, they remain in the pure state, and this pure state is being shared with everybody around. And why we say that usually the disciples or students, they can perceive the state is because they are more oriented towards the teacher. They are more oriented toward the teacher, and they try to perceive it on the subtle level. There is one more place where you can easily find the higher states within you, in the silence, in this silence of your mind and your ego. If you are able to put those two on pause, I mean mind and ego, then you can discover that purity and clearness, they exist everywhere. They are in first place in your consciousness and in the universe. So I would say this is the hardest part of the spiritual discoveries, because our own obstacles, our inner wall-guarded individualities, they kind of protect themselves, or they protect ourselves from ourselves. But in the silence of the mind, this state of purity, the state of clear perception, it raises, it grows. So to sum it up, the knowledge in the spiritual education, some say it is everywhere, which is absolutely true. The biggest challenge is to perceive this knowledge and to obtain it, to understand it, and to let this knowledge grow and glow in you. It will be it for today. Thank you.